the Southern Poverty Law Center has really focused on accusing people of extremism, of hate, of being members of hate groups, of being radical right, and they use the term terrorist a lot. They use the term neo-Nazi and racist a lot, but they very seldom define these terms, and they very seldom apply them with any precision. In fact, these are terms which they have found they can use with great political effect by keeping ambiguity and keeping definitions hazy and applying them across a broad range. In fact, they have done this so successfully for the last 40 years. They've been around since 1971. And they have succeeded in raising so much money, hundreds of millions of dollars, and obtaining favorable coverage from the media that they have become supremely arrogant. As I mentioned, during the Clinton administration, they became illegitimately wedded to the Justice Department under Janet Reno, at that time Attorney General, and Louis Freeh, head of the FBI, and they started bringing their people in to train the Department of Justice and the FBI, and then through that they have now put it together training programs for local and state police. Now, this is a Department of Homeland Security report that 2 years ago caused quite an uproar, and it's entitled Right-Wing Extremism, Current Economic Political Climate Fueling Resurgence in Radicalization and Recruitment. That was published by the Department of Homeland Security. When it came out, it caused an uproar among many conservative groups as well as many military veterans groups because, among other things, this DHS targets the military. It says, quote, returning veterans possess combat skills and experience that are attractive to right-wing extremists. DHS INA, that's Intelligence and Analysis, is concerned that right-wing extremists will attempt to recruit and radicalize veterans in order to boost their violent capacities. It goes on to say that right-wing extremism can be divided into those groups, movements, and adherents that are primarily hate-oriented, based on hatred of particular religious, racial, or ethnic groups, and those that are mainly anti-government, rejecting federal authority in favor of state or local authority, or rejecting government authority entirely. It may include groups and individuals that are dedicated to a single issue, such as opposition to abortion or immigration, end quote. Now, among other things, this report referred to veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and then it made allusion to the Oklahoma City bombing and Timothy McVeigh being a veteran from the first Persian Gulf War. So the American Legion responded very vehemently and said, quote, the American Legion is well aware and horrified at the pain inflicted during the Oklahoma City bombing, but Timothy McVeigh was only one of more than 42 million veterans who have worn this nation's uniform during wartime. To continue to use McVeigh as an example of the stereotypical disgruntled military veteran is as unfair as using Osama bin Laden as the sole example of Islam, end quote. Now, as a result of American Legion, other veterans groups, conservative groups, pro-life groups, etc., protesting over this, and members of Congress protesting over this, DHS Secretary Janet Napolitano was forced to apologize, sort of. She didn't really apologize. She finally withdrew the report, and she apologized that people were offended by it. Members of Congress and many citizens demanded an investigation of this, saying, well, wait a second, where did this come from, and how is it that the Department of Homeland Security has cast a big net like this, attacking veterans and conservatives, pro-lifers, people who are concerned about immigration, and the danger of this report was it was being disseminated to all of law enforcement. In other words, this is the Department of Homeland Security telling local police, you better be watching out for those returning military veterans, you better be watching out for those pro-life people. If somebody has a bumper sticker about illegal immigrants, they might be a potential terrorist, another Timothy McVeigh. So members of Congress said, well, where did you get this information? What is the provenance or source of this information that is in the report? Secretary Napolitano demurred. She did not want to give out that information. So Americans for Limited Government brought a lawsuit. I'll have to skip this one. A Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security and forced them to, by court order, to release the information. And what do you suppose was the source? Now this is the Department of Homeland Security. They have billions and billions of dollars. They've got hundreds of thousands of employees and investigators and whatnot. One might expect that when they put out a report like that on extremism, that they would have some hard evidence or data to back up their claims. So when they were forced to release their information, where did it come from? Well, here's the printout that they released here. You can see from there, I don't know if you can, most of these are SPLC centered, the Southern Poverty Law Centers. So what we see is that the Southern Poverty Law Center, with its political allies in government, has succeeded in hijacking the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, the FBI, to do their dirty work for them, to present their propaganda to the local police, to present their people, their so-called experts at the SPLC, as trainers for our federal, state, and local police. So the hate map, now bad as it is and as it has been by being given ubiquitous coverage in the media and spreading disinformation through public media like that, far worse is the incorporation of that disinformation into actual official government reports, which then can influence those agencies which are instruments of the state and local governments for actually enforcing laws and taking away people's rights, which actually should be called, renamed the Southern Wealth Enrichment Center. We don't have time to go into the whole details, but I have visited their Poverty Palace in Montgomery, Alabama. I visited Poverty Palace 1 and Poverty Palace 2. They built a multi-million-dollar office there right on the very expensive Tony Capitol Hill, right across the street from the Capitol. But after a couple of years, that wasn't good enough, so they built a second Poverty Palace 2, multi-million-dollar headquarters there. And then they built a multi-million-dollar memorial center as well. They have gone on with many other things. This is Morris D's Poverty Palace home, which was featured in a Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous type of photo spread in the Montgomery Advertiser. These are some of the, there's a designer wife. As you'll see from their reports, they have nearly $229 million in assets in their trust fund. So they continue to promote their propaganda nationwide on their hate map, but as I said, the real danger is the way in which they are insinuating themselves into official circles with the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the FBI, and then working their way down to the local level. I went to one of my first Southern Poverty Law Center programs here in Appleton in 2000. Morris D's came here to Appleton West, had a big crowd, about 1,000 people there. I don't know if anybody else attended that one. But they're carrying out these programs nationwide on a regular basis. Urge you to, we've run out of time, but if, you can pick up a copy of the New American Magazine here, and this article has been reprinted in this particular issue of the SPLC, which also features an article about our Support Your Local Police program. Thank you very much.